Hey everybody, Rhadamant here for another episode of the Blacklight Settler series. Thanks for tuning in. So, yesterday was vote day. Let's go over my new goals. Short-term goals that got added. Assign CC to Jarrett's bed. More hydroponics. Organ harvest 4 eyes. Guys, that's a little cruel. I did move the old short-term goal of fix wounded pawns with Bionics to recurring. I figured it actually better fits in a recurring goal. And then we have a new long-term goal of cultivating smoke leaf for trade. And of course, we kept the old long-term goals that I have yet to complete. So looking at this map, there is some peace talks that I might be able to do. This shield belt, forget it. I really don't care. And then Tigers Township, which is the Grey Slayers faction, is another hurdle that I ought to tackle eventually. Also, I want to go over some of the comments I received. One of the big ones was, this stockpile is wrong. I, of course, in fumbling around, put clean apparel only, not tainted apparel, so I'm going to switch that around. And the people that mentioned that were Hugh, Rico Tsumi, Ian Roberts, Michael Arnold, Talon, 1124. All of you mentioned that to me, and I figured I'd mention your names. Now, some other tips. Cardoza and a few others mentioned the easier fix for Velik would just be to take him off of crafting. Just don't allow him to craft, and he ought to be just fine. Yeah, and that makes sense. In fact, what I'll do is I will add some smithing in. So crafting is smelting and stone cutting. Smithing is fab bench and machining table. And then tailoring is obviously the tailoring bench. Oh, and I guess the electric smithy is smithing as well. So now adding some additional smiths to the group, they will start to queue up this fab component queue here that I've created a triplicate of. And we already have a caravan request. They would like to purchase human leather, and no matter how nice of this request might be, there's no way I'm going to be able to source that kind of human leather. I'm not in the business of butchering human likes, so yeah. Another tip, the last tip I received was from Speegee, or something like that. Saying maybe give these dudes and dudettes in here a dresser. Dresser about right here will make everyone more comfortable, which is pretty crazy to think that one dresser can accommodate everyone, but if it can, it will. So I'm gonna queue Wolf up to do some tree cutting of trees that have wood, so that Sergio can craft a dresser for them. Additionally, it would be nice if I put some clothing in here. So what I'm going to do is put a stockpile of, we'll call it prison garb. We'll say it's preferred for clean apparel of shirts and pants, and that's it. And any quality with over 60% hit points. And that way we can get some clothing down there. Some of the prisoners are currently naked, so that's pretty much the purpose of that. Now, some of these prisoners also still have shield belts and flak jackets, so that is another thing that I intend to pull off of them. So I'm going to go prisoner by prisoner and make sure that they don't have anything like 0 days marine armor, for instance, is probably should be stripped off. Now 0 day is not likely to go berserk because he's a masochist in serious pain, he's in a gorgeous environment. I'm doing a pretty good job of taking care of him, but even with that said, leaving him prison armor and hyperweave is asking for it. And I'd rather not do that. Sounds like a bad time. So as far as a dining room, rec room combo goes, the best bang for your buck is often very extremely impressive. To get it any higher than extremely impressive is a little difficult. There is some serious diminishing returns when it's attempted, which is why I'm not going to attempt it necessarily. So we also had this goal of heel root, or smoke leaf. So I'm going to start planting smoke leaf instead of the hay. I only really have two pets right now, and until I get the boomalopes, which I'm massively long overdue to get, granted, until I get those boomalopes, the requirement of hay is pretty low. I basically don't need hay for really any purpose. And we're starting to plant some good stuff here. Some heel root. And we're propping the door open, which is less than wise. It appears as if we still have some prisoners that are pretty well geared. Like Bob here has a flak jacket. We will be moving clothing in. As you can see, we already have Griffin wearing some of the clothing that we brought in. Ideally, I would have it be stockpiled in a shelf, but I'm poor. Oh, I just stripped the wrong pawn anyway. Look at me. Okay, so we're starting to put clothing back on. So Griffin was just stripped and he already has clothing back on. Let's do a quick inventory, making sure that nobody is wearing anything they shouldn't be. Wildman here, I'm going to anesthetize because he's been so violent. I think that was a suggestion someone made, but I'm anesthetizing him so I can force him to have drugs, mood-altering drugs. So I'm tired of him getting really violent with the inhabitants. I'm going to set Velik here to Tailor over Smith. Although we are currently making Bionic eyes. So actually, no, I'm going to take that back. I'd rather have the Bionic parts than some extra clothing. So let's change his work priorities back again. Look at me being indecisive. Appears as if we could get some grizzlies finally butchered up. No final lavish for Chris Grunt. Okay, so Chris Grunt also doesn't have a bed. So he's sleeping in the kitchen. We gotta fix that. Obviously, we left off with him not having a bed, and that's entirely my fault. Okay, we got the Bionic Eye. Bionic Eye. I don't know why I'm calling it a Bionic Eye. And I think that was going to Lenka. Yeah, look at that. Or Vex, I think, needed one as well. No, Vex got hers. So Lenka. So we will install that eye once we haul it. She's still one lunged. The good thing about an eye is that it removes the disfigurement. I mean, it also helps you, of course, accuracy and work production and all that, but it also removes the disfigurement debuff that you would otherwise have, which is huge. If you're disfigured, it will hurt your relationships with everyone, and that is less than positive. Nobody wants a disfigured... I don't know. I guess I should say it like this. The pawns here are a little picky, right? They would rather not talk to disfigured people, so... Night owl in daytime. Yeah, I'm trying to fix that, buddy. There we go. Trying. Alright, so DQ here is doing the surgery. Should he be? Yeah, I suppose that's fine. In a well-lit environment. In a legendary bed. Yeah, she'll be fine. Because obviously we are currently using the hospital. In fact, I'm going to change that. Kimasia is going to join the rest of them. Now it looks like most of our people in here are no longer naked. Some are still naked, but most of the ones have been. I'm pretty sure I set everyone to recruit. That's odd. I'll look again. Yeah, we have a lot of missing recruits here. Scratching my head about that. Alright, so Lenka is no longer disfigured. So that won't be hurting the relationship. Oh, my dev mode is on, and you just saw the compatibility, which you're not supposed to see. Let's turn that off pronto. So it's the 1st of summer. We got pretty much the whole farm cultivated at this point. Now, if I wanted more smoke leaf, because we're supposed to cultivate it for trade, you all are going to get more smoke leaf. Of course, this does pose a massive fire risk. I can't stress enough, this is a massive fire risk. But at the moment, I don't exactly have the room to be picky about where I grow my smoke leaf, so I'm just going to grow it everywhere I can. And this will be a whole lot of smoke leaf, as you can tell. I'm going to keep it away from the area that I'm going to possibly light up the tainted clothing, but then the rest of it is fine. Another thing that occurred to me is if I had any human leather clothing, the Bloodlust pawns like Jirit would love to wear it. But at the moment, it does not seem that is true. But I will start to force them to wear marine helmets. Actually wear the normal one. And then Wolf here. There's... How many more marine armor do I have? I have 1, 2, and a tainted. Trekintosh will get one of them, and DQ will get the other. Oh, let's anesthetize him again. I meant to administer drugs. I'm not even sure what drugs I have to administer, but yeah, I really don't have anything to administer on him. I currently don't really have any drugs, which is the greater problem. So DQ and Trekintosh are going to have to change their outfits. So we'll say combat, combat. Now the reason for it is DQ is a good shooter, as is Trekintosh. Actually, Trekintosh is a really good shooter. And he really wants to wear a hat. So we can probably clear force and that'll be okay. At this point, Trek might be... Oh yeah, he's just about rivaling Sergio in terms of quality of craft abilities, which is good to know. I don't have to necessarily rely on Sergio for everything anymore. Quite honestly, I don't even remember what the shelf is for. So if everyone in here has a bed... Huh, okay. Blammo. I'm not going to really worry about the bed. Now, some of the short-term goals I had, I ought to start working on. So hydroponics will be definitely something I'll do. I have to organ harvest Four Eyes, so let's look at her. She... Yeah, I don't know why you all voted for that. I really can't do anything to her that hasn't already been done. So, I guess I get to cross that off. Unless she gets an infection in one of her limbs, I can't even really cut off her limbs. Because she's already mostly limbless. She's 3 out of 4 limbs. So, unless she somehow gets damaged right arm, where I can amputate it, that's just not something that I have to deal with. Let's see. Work. Wardens. I guess I can make you a warden too. Leth apparently has a passion in it. More so than Endelos. So we'll have 3, or Cole too. We'll have 4 wardens. Jared's pretty bad at it. I am also supposed to assign Jarrett to Cece's bed. So what I'm going to do is have Wolf and Jarrett switch beds so that there's space. I just did that wrong, didn't I? Yes. Unassign, assign Jarrett, and then assign Cece. I don't know what this is going to accomplish. Probably nothing. It's just going to piss them off that they're in the wrong bed. But, you know, whatever. Jarrett, you're also here. I'm checking their social. Oh my goodness. Where it's not even... it's not even registering here. Like Jarrett liking Cece, for instance. It is at the bottom. Being staggeringly ugly kind of hurts. It's too bad there's no, like, jewelry or something that can make that right. Just the way it is. This is a Bionic leg. This could probably be used by a lot of different people, but I think this was originally for Lenka as well. But she just got a Bionic part. Let's see. Menmi could use one. Vex could use one. It actually makes more sense on Vex because Vex often goes on longer trips. She's a miner, so she travels a lot, whereas Lenka's just a cleaner in the base. She doesn't really travel. Alright, he's 90% over his psychic addiction. I really should have taken that addiction seriously when we had it. Another thing I could do, this shelf is for nothing. So what I'm going to do here is just to put the Bionic parts of artificial parts so that we don't have to travel so far when we're making them. So I would say if anyone's still naked, it's kind of their own fault. Because we've had all this decent, really decent clothing just kind of like laying here. And they could totally pick it up at any time. I'm moving the night owls over to a corner. And working on my other, yeah, I would say more hydroponics is probably the only short-term goal that is left sort of hanging. Ideally, I would get some water pumps to start pumping out this area here. And then I can use it. So that would be a really good research to have. We're currently working on deep drilling, but I'm going to order Deef to work on moisture pumps. Vex, we have a leg for you for your right. And her left is pegged, so this is definitely a huge move speed boost for her. Poopy... Oh, Wolf is doing the surgery. That works for me. Thank you, Mr. Wolf. We're also running out of decent medicine, so a drug lab would not be a terrible idea in the near future. I don't think there's... I could move the smelter out, actually. The smelter's doesn't benefit from the tool benches. Neither does the biorefinery, but the biorefinery can't be moved as easily. So I could put the drug lab where the smelter is, and that would be totally legitimate. Okay, so she'd be in considerably less pain, given that she has a lot of her permanent wounds have been removed from her body. I'm just looking at the recruitability of these pawns. A lot of them are going to be joining us pretty soon, which I am quite excited about. Here's yet another Bionic leg. Wild Man, despite having a horrible psychic withdrawal, the catharsis is going to help for the next 9 hours. Well, that's not very long. And there is no shortage of chat bubbles here. As you can see, some of the resistances are getting pretty close to 0, which is exciting, in my opinion. Most of the prisoners are all healed up, and Vex here has a moving speed of better. Not perfect, but better. That's great. Her manipulation, because of a missing finger, is also a little lower, but as I said, the recurring goal is to fix wounded pawns with Bionics. I'm doing my best. I'm doing all I can. So we do have a giant field now of smoke leaf. As you can see, we actually have a lot of stuff cultivated. Getting the heal root in the ground, and hoping that we don't suffer any giant fires or anything like that, because obviously that is a constant possibility in this community. Yeah, and that would not be good. That would be the opposite of good. Is Cole an ascetic? No, he's not. I think he was just imprisoned. Asceticism. Let's see. DQ is, though. Okay. Restrict for DQ, then. Assign DQ to NPM. For now, I'm just trying to keep their moods up as best I can with the use of good meals. But now we're in the extremely impressive range for a rec room. I'd like to get it a little bit higher so that a little bit of filth won't drop it into the very impressive, because it's an extra, it's a big mood boost. But additionally, these little statues are going to be used for trade, and I'm tired of stuff not getting built, so I'm just going to micro them to build it. And then people will start hauling this stuff out. This just looks ugly. In fact, this door could go. that could get removed entirely. We don't want this to become a thoroughfare, you know, where people are constantly traveling through it. So removing that would be very, very wise. Oh, the top hat's killing me. It's just so funny. Alright, Horn is the only one that still has... Oh, and Camassia, but yeah, the only ones without injuries that haven't been addressed. Endelos. Move those beds. Their beds are up there because of night owlism. If that's a word, but it is now. Horn is fully slaved. It's slaved. Healed. Also enslaved. Checking the wildlife. I think it's probably long overdue that they do some hunting. We also have a warg that might need to be attended to. So I think the nicest way to put it, I don't want anyone to get manhunted, especially if I'm removing most of their food source. We have another bionic leg crafted up. Let's see. I'm going to go with people that need it first and then would like it second. So Lenka could use one, definitely. So what is that? Left leg. And I'm going to try to give her just herbal. I've changed my mind about that. Just because we're running really low on real meds. I can craft some up soon. Oh, Chris, you are a smith? Yes, I guess you are. This will help that Velik isn't the only one making components. And Bandit Camp Quest offering me a whole lot of Luciferium. That is very, very tempting. Especially if I want to, you know, have amped up super soldiers. Yeah, well, we'll think about that. Might be something we'll want to do. At least the component crafting is a lot easier now. Lenka got her leg. We still have Menmi needing a leg. And Vex needing another one. Wildman's resistance broken by Lenka. Cool. There is a lot going on in there. I'm not even sure. It's hard to follow it all. Our hunting's been good. In fact, I'll queue some more animals up to be hunted. And then I ought to send a little bit of a hit squad, maybe, to... Yeah, let's send a little hit squad for the warg. I don't like having really dangerous animals out there. Because it doesn't take much for one of these animals to turn one of my colonists into mincemeat, especially a warg, who are particularly capable of violence. Alright, CC, you can go home. All squared away. Jira is working on his art projects. It's another beautiful piece of art. In fact, I'm going to, once we build this, let's just drop. And this is keeping Jirit, let's call it stable, while he is not butchering enemies, or even allies. He doesn't really care. And everyone is now healed. Everyone should also be clothed, I think. So I'm going to get rid of this stockpile. Yeah, I believe everyone is clothed at this rate, which is a good thing. So we can get the remnants, the remainder of this clothing out of there, which is making the building ugly. We almost have the moisture pumps researched. This room is obviously now extremely impressive, pushing upwards. So a little bit of filth won't ruin the bonus. Now the bonus that I'm talking about is +6 for a dining room, and soon to be +6 for a rec room. Some of these guys will have the 6 for the rec room. And that's a free 12 mood boost. Plus, while we're in here, wow, Deepest Cabin Fever, I'm just going to have him stand around a little bit. Sometimes, especially the people that work indoors, their outdoor requirements don't really get met all that much. Now, if I look at this is something I do often. If I look at the pawn that has the lowest mood, it's a really quick way to figure out where I've gone wrong. So the lowest mood here would be Bonded Animal Sold. That's entirely my fault. And then, let's see, DQ is Drowsy, and that's going to be fixed real soon. Rejected by Velik, that's not my fault. Want to sleep with Vex, that would be my fault. Actually, not really, Dano, because you just gave yourself the wrong bed, because you're dumb. Where is he? Dano, Vex, Chris, okay. And then Cole, because he decided to go crazy. That's additionally not really my fault. We're getting a lot of those prisoners. Their resistances are pretty close to breaking, for some of them at least. And that's always pretty exciting. But alas, I'm just about out of time. So I guess it's time to roll some credits. So thank you all for voting. The goals that you added were a little bit easier this cycle. And given the additional easier goals, I should be able to get some of the outstanding long-term goals done that I haven't been doing, like the Boomlump Ranch and killing off the nearest community. I feel those are long overdue. And I would say I've probably even could check off the Cultivate Smoke Leaf, as I've planted like a metric ton of it. If you have any questions or feedback for me, drop me a line. If you'd like to discuss RimWorld or really anything else that I do, Discord is the best place to do it. And I thank you all for watching. Catch you all later. Adios.